What is that time consideration in real estate?
So one of the normal type of considerations, and I say normal because if you think of the bell curve and the majority of the people form a certain group, and then
Mm,
there's outliers on one extreme and outliers on the other extreme, we're looking at the majority of the bell curve.
yeah.
So in that area where the majority of the people function,
Mm,
they feel that time works for them if they buy in an early year because the price hasn't gone up by that 10-year period we're talking about,
yeah.
but they have to pay for it at a later year. So if you buy at today's price,
Mm-hmm.
but the bill comes due in 5 years' time,
Good.
majority of people find that to be a good thing
Mm,
because the
definitely.
price is locked in,
Yeah.
but you're not paying interest.
No.
So how that works with a foreigner is
Mm,
that, let's say that the restrictions on somebody buying an Australian property is that they only buy a new house.
yeah.
So they would find something where there's a land in Oberon that has 800 square meters and they want a brand new house built on it.
Right.
They apply through the Department of Foreign Investment and Trade,
Mm,
through the FIRB, through the Foreign Investment Review
different.
Board,
Mm-hmm.
and through their paperwork, they submit that they are allowed to buy in this and this name or this and this company, whatever they do with the government website.
Yeah.
Now they put a deposit against the house and land, perhaps with a builder who's going to give them the finished product. And the
Right.
builder estimates it'll take 3 years to finish building
Yeah.
because they
He's
need to
busy.
apply first for permission with council. No, just the council, the process, the
Mm,
reviews. You're paying perhaps a staged payment. So you might pay the land component first.
mm-hmm.
Then, when the first stage of the building is complete, the slab, the
Yeah.
concrete base that
Yeah.
everything goes onto is finished, somebody local gives you a report. They're usually called a quantity surveyor.
Yes.
So you send out a quantity surveyor to inspect the site and make sure that the concrete slab is dry, has been laid correctly, and forms the correct area that you're expecting.
Mm-hmm.
And then they authorize your bank or yourself to make that payment to the builder as a
Yeah.
progress payment, as a milestone payment.
Mm,
So as every stage progresses, you're only paying for a portion
yeah.
of that final amount. So in 3 years' time, that quantity surveyor may have gone there 3 times and said, yes, now the walls are installed. Yes, now the concrete slab is installed. Yes, now it's finished and ready, habitable and livable, and has a certificate from the local council to
Okay.
give it occupancy. So an
Mm-hmm.
occupancy certificate means somebody can occupy it legally,
Yeah.
meaning that the council or somebody who the council authorizes has inspected and said, yes, the windows are the correct height above the floor, the
Plumbing.
correct amount of insulation is used,
Mm-hmm.
you haven't broken any restrictions on how low the ceilings are. So
Mm-hmm.
they've done basic um, the basic inspection, not to check for the color of the house, but to
No.
check that you've complied and followed the Building Code of Australia. Australia is very strict on what materials are not allowed to be used, what materials
Yeah.
must be used, how big openings are, how
Yeah.
big doorways need to be,
Mm,
how safe is a window that's above a certain height,
yeah.
all the restrictions that make living in Australia safe. And that really works in your favor when you're building a brand new house because think of it this way. If you follow the guidelines that tell you how a safe house feels like and looks like,
Yes.
you've got wider doors, wider windows, and a safe house to live in. So those restrictions actually work in your favor when you're building new.
Mm,
Yes, you have to comply with them, but why wouldn't you if it's a house you're going to keep?
yeah.
So it makes sense to follow it. It's also compulsory.
Yes.
So that means that that time has now worked in your favor. Remember what we said at the beginning, Tony? That the land underneath your house is the bit that's likely to
To
increase in value.
appreciate.
But the
Mm-hmm.
house, from when you build it, will start depreciating. In other words, reducing in value. So if you're thinking about how your money is spent and you can hold on to the land for as long as possible so that the
Mm.
value of the land goes up and the building gets finished at a certain point of time, let's say 3 years in time,
Yes.
it is pristine at that stage. It is brand new.
Yeah.
It is a house that, if you've designed it well, is attractive to anybody you want to sell it to. It's attractive for anybody who you want to rent it to, and it's
Mm.
attractive for you to live in. So it
Uh-huh.
ticks all the boxes.
Uh-huh.
And what that means from a portfolio or a wealth building point of view, it also gives you that 3 year period to apply for a resident visa in Australia, or to apply for a student visa in Australia, or a working visa in Australia. It gives you the time to
There's
allow,
that
especially if you've
time
done your area
consideration.
research,
Mm.
especially if you've done the area research on the area and you've chosen well,
Mm.
if you've used the right kind of blueprint to get the good example of how to analyze and how to choose and how to
Mm.
negotiate on an
Mm.
area that's moving forward, not backwards,
Yes.
then that time has worked for you like a tree, not against you like an animal. So rather
Mm.
than becoming frail, it's becoming stronger with time. And isn't that what we all want? We want our children to have an
Absolutely.
easier life than us.
Yes.
We want our future to be
Yes.
better than our past.
Yes.
So that's, again, it's one of these normal, average, universal considerations that the
Yes.
majority of people want the future to be better than the past.
Definitely. Definitely. So, that's the time consideration when you're an international or foreign investor in Australia, because it takes time to go through those processes, doesn't it?
It does. And time is on, as long as you put your foot down on the property, as long as you've
Yes.
committed to the property and nobody can sell it out from under you
Yes.
because you've paid your deposit and the contract, the ink is dry on the contract, and you've
Uh-huh.
done it through the correct legal conveyancer or solicitor in the state that you're purchasing in, or the territory you're purchasing in. So
Mm.
as long as you've done the correct things from your point of view and your solicitor and conveyancer has filled in the paperwork or created the paperwork
Mm.
to be in your favor, then time is in your favor.